Hello, welcome to La Quinta Book Fest Revisited. Since we were unable to host Book Fest 2021 here at the library, we thought we'd reconnect with previous panelists to see what they've been up to and talk about their latest projects. I spoke with Sadie Lee about staying creative during the pandemic, her upcoming book, A Clash of Steel, a Treasure Island remix, coming out this September, as well as the upcoming book, Not Your Hero, the last in her Sidekick Squad series. I hope you enjoyed this segment of Book Fest Revisited. Recording, awesome. All right. Well, CB, thank you so much for joining me, taking the time out of your schedule to meet with me.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. It's great catching up with the La Quinta Library.
Yeah. So before we talk about your books, what have you been up to this past year? What have you been enjoying lately?
Working from home, playing a lot of Stardew Valley, a lot of writing, reading. It's been kind of like, adjusting to working remotely has been a challenge, but it's been a year now, which is very interesting to say.
Yes.
But I spent a lot of time writing. Last year I published my novel Minecraft the Shipwreck, which was a really fun middle grade installment in the Minecraft universe.
Nice.
And then I published also 2 short stories last year that came out in different anthologies. And then I've been working on a novel that's coming out this year, which will be in September, which is called A Clash of Steel, a Treasure Island remix with Macmillan. It's part of a whole new series of reimagined classics. So that's been a lot of fun doing. It's my first historical novel, so
nice.
That project has been really rewarding and exciting. It's been great to kind of connect with my culture and write about a really interesting time in history, and I got really into it. It's been just looking back on that year and how much of it was spent writing and struggling to feel creative in the midst of a global pandemic and national crises, etc. But it's been a lot, but it's I'm looking forward to in-person events when they're safe
Yes,
to gather
definitely.
again. But this has been really exciting as well, just to be able to connect with people virtually. I love all the cool virtual events libraries and other educators and bookstores have been putting on, so that's been a nice thing to look forward to, just to keep in touch with everyone.
Yeah, absolutely. I love Treasure Island, and when I saw that you were doing a retelling with Chinese and Vietnamese leads, right? I was just like, this is gonna be awesome. And the cover is gorgeous.
Thank you. Yeah, it's been really just the just promoting anything during the pandemic, just our time. But I'm excited about it. Feifei Ron, who did the cover, did such a spectacular job. Totally got the feel and the time period, and I love all of her illustrations. So I'm excited that have both Chinese and Vietnamese heritage, so getting to explore both aspects of that history and how these countries have tangled together in my conflict, and also geography, and writing about places that are really special to me was really close to my heart.
Yeah, that's awesome. So you said this was your first historical fiction novel. So what was probably one of the more challenging aspects of writing something like that, especially from going from stuff like your superhero series and Minecraft into transitioning into something like that?
Yeah, the superheroes is really fun. I think there's a lot of aspects of science fiction and fantasy that I love, that's very inventive and creative, where you have to create a magic system, or a superhero system, or how something fantastic works from the ground up, and sometimes that's based in reality. I based a lot of how do the powers work on genetics and other stuff, and there's all sorts of tech in the books that I drew from real life. But a lot of it I just made up. So it's oh, you know what? Magic. You're writing a fantasy, magic. That's how it works. And you don't have to explain it. I mean, you kind of do in some sense. One of the fantasy novels I'm working on does have a very elaborate magic system, which I can nerd out a bit in how it works. But that's part of when you are the end all and be all of all the how it works, how the world works, what happens. There's a lot of I think there are 2 challenges creatively that are different, because it's hard to oh, now I have to create everything, versus working in a limited sandbox where it's not limited. So it's I feel that challenge you to work even more creatively, okay, these are the bare bones, this is what you can build,
Yeah.
So like, you know, if you're building something out of Legos, except you have to make sure you have to design all the pieces, that's going to be a different challenge. But like if you're trying to build something and you only get like 10 pieces, then what you're going to come up with is going to be very interesting as well. So historical fiction did involve a lot of research. I read a lot of journals, a lot of very, very academic texts, found very like, you know, dug into a lot of archives, had a lot of texts that were like in Chinese as well, and had those translated. And yeah, there's just a lot of, like, I remember doing a ton of research and just getting deep into, you know, what were they eating? What were they wearing? What is this called? And what would be the most accurate way? I mean, some of it's like, it's fiction, you know? So, you know, I had to decide like, okay, what's more important to me at this time? Like either for the theme of the story, you know, how it flows. And so, and what would feel most, what felt the best too. And so I remember that I spent like hours trying to figure out like what was the name of like the undergarment that women wore. And there's different names for it, different depending on the dynasty and like different styles and what people were wearing. There's like a Chinese garment, a Vietnamese garment, but they're kind of similar-ish garments. So and I was spending like so much time. And finally I was like, you know what, just you have to pick one. Pick one word, and it's probably not going to be like the right one or for that period, and it may or may not make the most sense, but you're spending so much time on this one detail. But like stuff like that, it was like fun to like try to get right, and it kind of brought to light like how much information there is about like a lot of Western history. Like there's so many books that are written in like Regency England, which technically was the same time period as my book, like late 1700s, early 1800s. But there's so many details like to the very like fabric and like ribbon like details of like what were people wearing, what were they eating, like what were their day-to-day life like, because you had so many diaries and like first person accounts. It's a very rich like documented
that's
history.
a good point.
And so doing research on like, you know, 19th century China and Vietnam, and you know, in places that, you know, have been colonized, have a lot of, you know, there's a lot of the texts that are like from a Western point of view. So kind of going through that and kind of interpreting and feeling from what my knowledge and travels in those places too have been like, you know, there's an element of world building where I'm like, okay, what elements are going to make the best story, and what also is going to feel the most right to me and my culture.
Yeah. Oh, I'm so excited to read it. Yeah, I saw the cover on your Instagram and I was like, this looks amazing. So I'm very excited. So did Fievel and Friends, right, the publisher, did they approach you with this specific title, or did you get to pick like which classic you wanted to remix?
They actually approached me with Treasure Island.
Nice.
And it worked out because when they're like, we're doing a bunch of classics, if this one doesn't appeal to you, do you have something else that really speaks to you? And I thought about it. I'm like, you know what, this feels the best, like the most right to me, because I'd always been fascinated by the Chinese, like the legend of like, you know, this incredibly successful Chinese pirate. And so she kind of inspired, you know, the time period and like some of the characters in the story. And so without spoiling too much, you know, the novel is about like two girls who go off on the search for her legendary treasure.
Awesome. Well, that's going to be great, and I can't wait for our readers to get to it.
Thank you.
And I wanted to talk briefly about it's the Sidekick Squad, right? Yes. That's the name of the series. I'm halfway through the last one currently. I love it. They're so inclusive and they're so relatable, and I wanted to ask, how was the writing process for this series, because you have so many different characters, and how did you just kind of ensure that they did come across authentic in your series?
So I had a lot of support. I had a lot of great beta readers. I'm queer, but I don't share the identity of all the characters, so I wanted to make sure that it was like as respectful as possible. And the heart of the story too is not about the experience of being like Emma is, you know, questioning aromantic and asexual, and she's trying to find out where her place is. Bells is trans and also Black, and so I don't share these identities, and it was important to me to include them because, you know, these people exist in real life, and people
Yes.
under all sorts, there's no wrong way to be queer, and there's so many different identities and people who are exploring. I wanted kids to be able to see themselves, but to me, their stories is about like the primary heart of the story is about like the superhero drama and like what they're going through as a person.
Yes.
And I can't speak to like what that experience is as that particular identity. I do share some aspects of like Emma's like being on the spectrum of like aromanticism and like kind of gray ace-ish area, and then like Jess, obviously I share her like Chinese and Vietnamese heritage, and I'm also bisexual, but like the elements that I felt like really taken to heart is that like these stories are about all of these kids. Like each of these books does take the perspective of one of them, but I wanted to do it as respectfully as I could, and had a lot of beta readers, had a lot of people from different identities reading early drafts and giving me a lot of feedback, and and also multiple people from those backgrounds as well, because there's going to be an understanding that like not every experience is a monolith, and that even within certain identities there's going to be a broad range of experiences. But yeah, it was important to me to get like a lot of really good feedback and think about like the kind of story I was telling, and that the story is about like being a hero, being your best self, and finding confidence in who you are. And I know that there are a lot of other great authors who do share those identities and are writing their own stories that are specific to that experience, which is great. And I'm, at every step of the way, I definitely want to uplift them and share their work as well.
Yeah, absolutely. They're so much fun. And I understand there's one more in the series?
Yes. So Not Your Hero, the release date will be announced by Interlude Press. At this point, I'm still working on it. So yeah, it's hard to tie up all the loose ends of a final book, and then and it's hard to like say goodbye to like characters that you have lived in your head for like 6 years. So yeah, it's been a really great journey, and I really loved working with the Interlude Press team, and just like the Sidekick Squad is so near and dear to my heart that like getting to a place where I'm concluding the whole story is it's been challenging, and there's a lot of Abby, who's the protagonist of the last book, goes through a lot in the series, and so it really touches on a lot of mental health issues, and it also is really close to me in that regard, so that also exasperates the challenge, but I'm still working on it, and we'll definitely share as soon as we have a date.
Yay, that's awesome. Well, I can't wait. That's gonna be great, and I'm sure it's gonna be a great conclusion to that series. Well, before I let you go, is there anything else you want to share about? Any other project you've got coming up, or any other middle grade books that you have coming out? And where can readers find you online?
You can find me at my website at cb-lee.com. I'm also on Twitter and Instagram at cblee_cblee. And yeah, A Clash of Steel is out on September the 7th. It's up for pre-order now. You can find more details on my website or any of my social media. Books that are available now are Not Your Sidekick, Not Your Villain, Not Your Backup. I also published a short story in the Star Wars point of view, Empire Strikes Back, from a certain point of view, where a short story called A Good Kiss, which is a lot of fun. And last year I also had a short story published in All Out, which was also a delight to write. So that's like a queer anthology. And yeah, looking forward to sharing more works with you. Hope you all enjoy A Clash of Steel, and yeah, feel free to find me on social media.
Yes, awesome. Yeah, well, thank you so much for speaking with me. It's been such a pleasure to catch up with you.
Yeah, it's been great. Thank you so much for taking the time, and I hope everyone checks out all the great activities and events at La Quinta Library.
Oh, thank you. Thanks for watching our BookFest Revisited series. See below for links to the author's social media pages and links to our catalog if you want to request any of their titles. Want to be notified when our newest videos come out? Click or tap on the red subscribe button. Happy reading!